All right, hello everybody. Hope everyone is doing well today. We are back into the Reddit commentary series, and this video is going to be aimed at demonstrating the importance of reading and learning about history, regardless of your age, but especially when you're young. And I think we're getting to a day and age where the perceived importance of history or respect for historical awareness as something that is very important in order to have a like just a general awareness in life. I think that's becoming lost. I think it's kind of dissolving, and fewer individuals, especially younger individuals, are finding themselves really fascinated by history. And there could be a lot of reasons. I think one of them is the collective transition from long form content to insanely short form content, like any social media or TikTok or Reels. I believe that the effect that that open ended feedback loop has on your brain completely destroys any desire or potential desire to sit down and read something like a history book. And that's just how it works. Like once your brain is wired into these random short cycle dopaminergic hits, that's just a real danger, and that's going to change the makeup of your brain. But not to get too far off track before we even start the video, this post is something that we're going to read through, and then we're going to ask why history really is important in light of a mindset such as the one we're about to see. So, the title of this post is "I am 23 and I feel mad about it." Uh, He uses stronger language, but we'll keep it clean here. I was supposed to go to college and do a lot of other stuff, and COVID 19 effed that stuff up for me, as well as my parents being general D bags that didn't set me up for a good life. Now, 4 effing years have passed, bro. I was 18, 19 when that shit started, or when that stuff started, and now I'm effing 23 and haven't recovered. The millennials sure didn't recover from the financial crash in 2008, so what does that say for us? We probably won't recover, dude. A lot of my friends straight up didn't get stimulus money and it spiraled them into financial ruin at 19, 20, 21 years old. I honestly don't know a person my age that's actually doing well unless they live with family, and pretty much everyone knows that social media is full of lies about what other people our age are doing or should have. I didn't get to have a happy childhood. I didn't get to have fun teen years, and now I'm facing the possibility that I won't get to enjoy my 20s either. I didn't plan on being alive this long anyway. JFC, dude. I'm a girl. Okay. That's really all you need to see here. And when I read something like this, it's like there's a little bit of sympathy that goes out for a person that may be stuck in a situation like this and doesn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But there are so many just bad assumptions buried into this rant that we should probably unpack to see if this mindset is reasonable or maybe a little bit less reasonable. But the first thing they say is I was supposed to go to college, but COVID 19 screwed that up, and my parents didn't set me up for a good life. So there's going to be no way for us to know what the relationship between this poster and their parents looks like, but we can infer from this that sentence alone that there is this kind of underlying expectation this person feels that, well, they're entitled to a good life and their parents should be kind of carving that path for them. And maybe uh, there are a lot of parents who do that, and maybe in this person's local environment, they're looking around and they're seeing the parents of their acquaintances or peers taking a more hands-on approach to guiding their child through life, and that's perfectly fine. That's parenting strategy. But if you're calling your parents d-bags because they didn't set you up for a good life, quote unquote, I think that betrays a deep ignorance of who's actually entitled to a good life, because I don't think anyone is entitled to a good life. And I'd be willing to bet that your parents had a probably had similar struggles, and that they are also dealing with constraints of reality, and it's not within their capacity to make everything perfect for you. And I know people like that, where the parent has taken an active like a role, like a lawnmower role for their child, literally paving the way, creating for them a path of least resistance. And, you know, perhaps it comes from a place of love, but that can be very, very dangerous once that child gets sent out into the real world. And maybe this is what this person is seeing and they're internalizing and they are upset that they didn't have. But the parent thing, there's nothing really there other than the assumptions that he's making. Now, 4 effing years have passed. I was 18, 19 when that started, and now I'm effing 23 and haven't recovered. The millennials sure didn't recover from the financial crash in '08. So what does that say for us? We probably won't recover, dude. Now, the next thing this person says is, well, look at 2008. The millennials never recovered from that crash. So what does that say about how we are going to recover from COVID? What are like we're screwed basically. This person's saying we won't ever recover. But saying that an entire generation never recovered from 2008, that indicates to me that this person is operating from like a base assumption that our systems and institutions and regulations should be operating perfectly optimally. And that a market crash akin to what we saw in 2008, well, something like that, you cannot be recovered from. In this person's mind, millennials in the year 2024 still have not recovered from the financial crash. And in a way, this person is probably correct because if you're using recover to specifically describe recovering lost assets or investment, then obviously no one is going to recover that because I mean that's what the crash entails. But the sentiment underlying that, it feels more so like we're screwed, like we're completely screwed, economically screwed. We won't recover in any capacity to any degree. And then this person goes on to say, during COVID, a lot of my friends didn't get stimulus money and it spiraled them into financial ruin at 19, 20, 21 years old. Now, first thing is, for your friends who were 18, 19, 20 years old, there's a very high chance that that stimulus money they were receiving outweighed the money they actually would have been making if they were working a job. I had a lot of friends, I had some roommates who were in that exact same situation. They got stimulus and they were able to get on unemployment during COVID. And it was kind of nice and it completely destroyed the incentive to get back into the workforce. If you have a stipend coming in every month from the government because the government has deemed you worthy and uniquely incapable of finding a job, maybe that's the case. Maybe you have put in the effort and maybe there really is nothing out there for you to jump into or move up the ladder within. But what do you think the consequence is going to be if you start paying people to not work? Another thing is it's it's very likely that you're broke when you're 19, 20, 21 years old. But it's highly, highly unlikely that you are in a state of permanent financial ruin. As a matter of fact, looking at your like cost benefit timescale, when you're 19, 20 years old, you are arguably at your highest potential future utility simply due to the countless number of things that you can invest your time and energy into that in 10 years time or even 5 years time will result in some sort of developed skill, and you will increase in the value that you offer to employers. So to have this perspective when you're 19 years old that you will never be able to recover because you didn't get a stimulus check from the government, I have a hard time making that one work in my head. And that's another indication that there's just no perspective from this person. Maybe, relatively speaking, your situation is worse than the people around you. There's going to be no shortage of that. And that's going to be an unavoidable facet of reality until the end of time. I mean, unless you're going for the singularity, maybe then we can reach ultimate equality. But if this is your mindset when you are 23 in a day and age where undoubtedly there is more potential to learn and more opportunity to innovate, to play with ideas and create new ideas. That potential is at an all-time high. Technology, medicine, infrastructure, these things that we have spent hundreds and hundreds of years putting in place that have enabled you the luxury of saying you have things terribly because you didn't get your stimulus check. And then the next thing is they admit that they don't know a person around their age that's actually doing well unless they live with family. And pretty much everyone knows that social media is full of lies about what people are doing or should have. And now that latter phrase is true. Social media is full of lies. But when I read that sentence in the context of this post, honestly, I think that that's more so a rationalization than an actual reflection of their observation of reality. Because it sounds like they're implying they go on social media and they see other people their age that might be doing okay. They might be getting by, they might be surviving, and they're not in a state of immense distress or panic. And this person, when they look at themselves and maybe when they look at the circle of friends they have around them, they're drawing conclusions about, okay, I'm in a bad spot. My friends seem to be in a bad spot because they're living with their parents. I'm going to extrapolate that out and draw a conclusion about the entire state of the world for our generation. And maybe he's onto something, but I also think there's a chance that the people that the people that they have surrounded themselves with, if I've been saying he, I meant they or she or whatever, because I think this is a girl, but the people that this person has surrounded themselves with are perhaps like-minded people or similarly motivated people, so to speak. So that's this person's sample size. That's their data set that they are drawing conclusions about the world from. And I just think there's a really good chance that they are lacking perspective. And that's where the history ties into all of this because my honest belief is that in order for you to say these things and have this sentiment with conviction, you have to be so ignorant to history and what has happened and the conditions that people have faced throughout human history that if you did know, you would simply cringe at yourself for sounding so delusional. Because again, I'll say it's all relative when you're born into a world where everything seems like it's working as it should, and malevolence or most degrees of suffering are just so far outside of the norm. You just end up convincing yourself that that's the natural state of the world. And what you can do as an antidote to a person like this or a sentiment like this is simply understanding how bad people your age generations ago have had it, how exponentially worse it was for them than it is for you right now. And even if it isn't perfect for you right now, I promise 100% that that perspective, if you integrate it into your worldview and make sure it's something that's kind of always sitting in the back of your mind, that's going to temper a lot of these emotions that you're feeling. And it's going to ground you in the realization that maybe at the end of the day, my life and my small slice of existence on this miraculous temporal plane isn't the worst thing in the world. And maybe there are perspectives I can adopt that might move me in a positive direction. But something like this is, well, the person says towards the end, I didn't have a happy childhood. I didn't get to have fun teen years. And now I'm facing the possibility that I won't get to enjoy my 20s either. I didn't plan on being alive this long anyway. Something like that. It's sad to read, but baked into it is the entitlement that you should just be having fun. I didn't have as much fun as I wanted in my youth. I didn't have as much fun as I wanted in my teens. I'm expecting not to have as much fun as I wanted in my adult life, young adult life. Maybe that's the point once you get to 23, where you start to change your expectation of what you want to receive from the world, what you want to get out of your human experience. And if it's simply fun, well, that explains everything. And you are not going to be aligned. Your interests are not going to be aligned with reality. I mean, you don't even have to look too far into history. I mean, there are national militaries that exist to this day that hook young children on cocaine, give them AK-47s, and make them dependent on hard drugs in order to continue fighting for the nation's cause. And I think at the end of the day, worst case scenario, you can look around and say, well, at least that's not happening to me. And at least my childhood wasn't that bad. And we can abstract as much as we want. There's no shortage of examples in history that show us prima facie, on its face, that in the grand scheme of things, we are really sitting at the pinnacle of human luxury right now. If you're posting on Reddit complaining about how this is the worst time to be alive or something akin to that, then you need to widen the scope of your perspective of basically everything. And that's why I say read history. Just develop a basic understanding for how bad some circumstances can be. And if you don't have a moral compass, if you have no values grounding or guiding you through life, then that will work. I promise you. If you come real close to something like real suffering, that'll be your North Star for the rest of your life. That'll be enough to instill a core realization for you, and that is that you want to avoid pain when it is possible. So that's like worst case scenario. If you don't have anything else to do, you can do that. Try to conceive. It's not easy. It's a very painful process. Try to conceive what it would have been like for you to be raised in a extermination camp. Try to conceive in actuality, like in totality, what it means to drop a nuclear bomb on a civilian population. See if you can contend with what it might be like to have that experience and live through it. And this can happen infinitely. Chernobyl, you don't think about it. How bad could that have been? How close were we to an actual threat to global life? We forget about stuff like that pretty quickly. What if you were born in an age without medicine? What if you were born with a disease? What if you needed an operation and there was no anesthesia? You can't count the number of scenarios that you can come up with that render your struggles arbitrary. And even if your struggles are real and they are valid, if you have a perspective like this, maybe that's something you could benefit from. Trivialize your own problems for a little bit. Take a step out of your own little bubble. See how bad things actually are and could be. Then step back in, and you'll have I guarantee you'll have something to carry you forward, at least in some direction. And you'll be, I don't like to call people naive, but you might reduce your naivety enough to realize that a post like this is just existentially ironic. But at the end of the day, that's the point. Not everyone shares the same perspective, and you can't always expect others to have the same view of reality that you do. So the only thing you can do is deduce what might be wrong and point these ideas in a better direction. Because maybe this is a really intelligent person that's going through a very difficult time in their life, and they feel like venting online is the best case scenario, and maybe it is for them, but it probably isn't. And I think it's good to, when you see this sort of sentiment, actually challenge it, because this is the type of sentiment and the type of ignorance that breeds entitlement and that breeds other unintended consequences. So that's really about it. And I sincerely apologize for yet another overly long video. But if for some terrible reason you have made it to the end, I would highly encourage you to subscribe, because that's what this channel is about. We are in the business of exploring any topics, any ideas, any conversations worth having. And the whole point is to figure out what is going to be the most valuable for you guys. So we're going to do it together. And at the end of the day, this channel is for the people. So do subscribe. we're trying to fund a new chair, which you have been hearing in the background of all of my videos. So